So the topic is all about Norse mythology. So what is Norse mythology? Well, Norse mythology, it is the emerge before the Norse, which is also called as Vikings. They have converted the Christianity during the ages. They had their own vibrant native religion that was as harshly beautiful as Nordic landscape, to which intimately connected. So Norse mythology, these stories are religious stories that gave meaning to Vikings' life, and it also revolved with God and goddesses, and I will mention them later so that you will know who are they. But now let's proceed with who are the Vikings. The Vikings are seafaring raiders, conquerors, explorers, settlers, and traders from modern today Norway, Sweden, Denmark, and Iceland. And they are the one who ventured throughout much of the world during the Viking Age. As you already know what is the Vikings, next is the Germanic people. And for this Germanic people, we already have a clue word which is coming from the German word. So right now, Germanic people are the indigenous people of Northern Europe, along with the South Semi-Finns and others. And historically, they occupied much of the Scandinavia, Iceland, the British Isles, and continental Europe north of the Alps. Since right now we are done with the Norse mythology, the Germanic people, and as well as the Vikings, so right now what I'm going to discuss is all about the concepts of the Norse mythology. So first, as I can see here, it is the enchanted world, which is the Norse saw the world as a place infused with sacred meaning and divine presence. So for this enchanted world, there the god and goddesses lived, and also it is all about the modern materialism and salvation-centered religions. So for next is the Norse theology. For this Norse theology, they believe in faith, and in faith, God and goddesses are also subject to it. So that means there is no exception. Next is the magic. Magic is the Norse belief that magic was real force of the Norse mythology. Next is shamanism. It is also the Norse belief that it is the so class after the magic there is a shamanism, and for the shamanism it is the practice of a Norse or in Norse mythology that it is belief of its efficacy. So next is cedar. It is the one of the main kinds of Norse magic and shamanism. Next is Inagard and Utgard. So for Itangard, it is the holy, civilized, and orderly. And for the Utgard is the other side, which is the unholy, wild, and chaotic. And let us proceed with the death and the afterlife. I think we all know what is this. We're familiar with this. And for Norse, they explain death and afterlife as someone, or after the death, it is explained to where is someone going to go into. Next is the self and its parts. It is the Vikings wouldn't have agreed with their division of self into a body, mind, and perhaps our souls as well. Next is totemism. It is the spiritually related to various kind of animals in any context. So for totemism, it is revolving all about animals. Next is other. It is the Old Norse and mean that is inspiration, ecstasy, and fury. It played a central role in some of the Vikings' religious practices and myths, as well as the character of the god Odin. Last is dreams. It is understandable, it is self-explanatory, but for Norse mythology, they believe about the dreams and their significance. Since right now we are done with all of those, especially the god and goddesses, let us now proceed with the cosmology, wherein it is the homeland of the various kinds of invisible beings who populate the other world, and it is including the 9 realms. So right now I will be discussing what is first realm is the Midgard. For the Midgard, it is the home of humanity and civilization. And next realm is the Asgard. It is the world of the Aesir tribes of god and goddesses. Next is Vanaheim. It is the world of the Vanir tribe of gods and goddesses. Next is the Jotunheim. It is the world of the giant, which is really included si Ymir kay Ymir is a frost giant but in different worlds. So the next is Niflheim. It is the primordial world of ice. Next is Muspelheim, the primordial world of fire. And in the middle of Niflheim and Muspelheim, we have the Ginnungagap, which is there started the creation of world and explained by Norse mythology. But we'll talk that one later. Right now, we just proceed with the Alfheim. It is the world of the elves. Next is Nidavellir or Svartalfheim. It is the world of the dwarves. And last realm is the world of the eponymous goddess Hill and the dead. But aside from that 9 realms, we also have additional world, just like what I mentioned, the Ginnungagap. But does not it? We also have Valhalla, Folkvang, and Bifrost. So for Valhalla, it is lived by some elite warriors chosen by Odin to find themselves after death. Next is Folkvang. It is where Freya lives to receive some of those who die in battle. Next is Ginnungagap. It is a primordial void, wherein it is a first creation of words started. Next is Bifrost. It is the rainbow bridge that connects Asgard and Midgard. Here in Norse mythology, we have the major deities, and first of that is Odin. And Odin, he is the all-father of the Norse mythology, wherein because he is a great warrior and his chief weapon was actually his mind. And because of that, Odin achieved his ends through cunning, craft, and the power of suggestion because of his intelligence or being wise. Next is Thor. Thor is the son of Odin. He is the Norse god of thunder, lightning, and war. And Thor was quick to get angry and always ready for a fight. Next is Loki. He is a devious trickster god of the Norse pantheon. He is a great mischief. Loki used his shape-shifting abilities to deceive God and mortals alike. Next is Freya. She is a prominent Norse goddess, a member of the Vanir tribe and a practitioner of Sedir magic. Next is Heimdall. Heimdall, he is the watcher of the Norse deity of the Aesir tribe and a god of keen eyesight and hearing who stood ready to sound the Jarl horn at the beginning of Ragnarok. Next is the Baldur or the shining Baldur of the Aesir tribe. He was the loveliest and most beloved of all gods in the Norse pantheon. And also to add on, he is also the wisest of all gods. Next is Freyr. Freyr is coming from the Vanir tribe. He was also one of the Norse god of masculine virility and reproduction. He is known as the bringer of peace and prosperity. He was the twin brother of Freya, the goddess of wisdom and magic. Next is Frigg. She is the wife of Odin. Frigg served as the queen of the Norse deities. Next is Tyr. Tyr was a Norse god, one of the Aesir deities who represented war, bravery, and justice. And he was best known for losing an arm to the monstrous wolf Fenrir, sacrificing it so the other gods could chain the beast. Next is George, the Norse god of the seas and the winds. Next is Idun, the Norse goddess of youthfulness and fertility. Next is Nertus, was a Germanic goddess of peace and prosperity, about whom little is known. And that was the all deities in Norse mythology. Right now we will discuss the gods and creatures, and it is the other spiritual beings of Norse mythology are among the most wondrous and unique of any mythology. The Norse gods had very human-like personalities and frequently intervened in humans' affairs, but were larger than life and awe-inspiring in ways that decisively set them apart from mere humans. Most of these were less powerful than the gods, but nevertheless played an important role in Norse mythology. Some of these beings were largely benevolent, some were fearsome, chaotic, and destructive, and some could be either or both. And the gods and other numerous creatures of the world include. So right now I will show you all the Norse gods. And first is the Aesir gods and goddesses, and the main tribute of deities. They live in the celestial fortress Asgard and maintain the order of the cosmos, and one of them are Odin. Odin is the wisest and most magically powerful of the gods. Next is Thor, the fiery-tempered defender of Asgard. Loki, the cunning trickster, the youthful and universally popular. Baldur, the loving sorceress. Frigg. Heimdall, the ever-vigilant watchman. Tyr, the upholder of law and justice. Idun, the keeper of the apples of perpetual youth. Bragi, the court poet, and many other lesser-known gods and goddesses such as Vili and Ve, the brothers of Odin. Next is Forseti, Gefjun, Sif, Forgin, and Forgin, George, Sol and Mani, which is the sun and moon, Uller, Hoynir, Vidar, Huder, Vali, Hermod, and Ludor. Next is the Vanir gods and goddesses, the second tribe of deities. They tend to be more associated with the natural world than the Aesir. First is Freya, the most popular goddess among the heathen Norse, and Freyr, Nord, and Nertus, the keepers and bringings of peace and wealth. The obscure figures Golvig and Odir should probably be grouped with the Vanir as well. The giants, more properly called the Devourers, the chaotic spirits of night, darkness, winter, and death, who are often the enemies of Aesir. Hel, the ruler of the underworld, the huntress Kadi. Aegir and Ran, the rulers of sea. The hermaphroditic Ymir, the first being in the Norse creation narrative. Fenrir, the wolf who consumes Odin during the Ragnarok. Jormungand, the sea serpent who encircles the landmass where humanity lives. Nidhogg, the snake who gnaws at the roots of the world tree. Yggdrasil, Scot, and Hati, the wolves who hunt the sun and moon. Since we're done with the major deities, right now we are going to proceed with the Norse myth and literature. And first of that is Beowulf and Sigurd. And right now I will be showing you some clips in regards with the Beowulf and Sigurd. So I will play the video now.
Today we're going to talk about Beowulf, the legendary hero of Geatland. Beowulf was a mighty warrior who lived in the 6th century AD. He was known for his strength, courage, and compassion. In one of his most famous adventures, Beowulf slew Grendel, a giant monster who was terrorizing the kingdom of Hrothgar. Grendel was a fearsome creature, and his defeat was a great victory for Beowulf. In another adventure, Beowulf slew Grendel's mother, who had come to avenge her son's death. This battle was even more difficult than the first, but Beowulf emerged victorious. Beowulf's story is a classic tale of good versus evil. It is a story of courage, heroism, and the triumph of good over evil. Beowulf is a fascinating and iconic figure in Western culture. His story is still told and retold today, and it continues to inspire people all over the world.
Sigurd, or Siegfried in Germanic literature, was a legendary hero in Old Norse mythology. He was a descendant of the Volsung clan, and in turn a supposed descendant of Odin. Blacksmith one day gifted Sigurd with a sword named Gram, put together by the pieces of his blood father's sword. With this blade, he later slayed Regin's shape-shifting brother Fafnir, the infamous dragon who broods amongst the cursed treasure stolen from their father. Sigurd's name means victory guard in Old Norse. His tale is a classic story of heroism and adventure, retold countless of times, such as the tale of Smaug from The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien, and deeply embedded in cultural heritage. His tale is overall told in the saga of the Volsungs, the German epic Nibelungen Lied, and numerous other works from both Scandinavian and Germanic literature.
So since we're done discussing all of the topics in the Norse mythology, we will now have our oral recitation. So first question to be answered by Ismenia. What is Norse mythology?
For me, the Norse mythology is a set of beliefs and stories shared by northern Germanic tribes. It was not handed down from the gods to the mortal. It had no scriptures. That's all. Thank you.
Next question is to be answered by Alcantara. What is the nine realms?
Midgard, Asgard, Vanaheim, Jotunheim, Niflheim, Muspelheim, Alfheim, Nidavellir, Hel, Valhalla, Folkvang, Ginnungagap, Bifrost.
Since we don't have enough time, let's go on to the last question. And for the last question to be answered by Cubello, what is the two Norse and myth literature?
So, in literature, the word myth is used to describe a traditional story that typically aims to explain a natural or social phenomenon. In literary myths, the use of supernatural begins as common, and the time period is usually date back to a period of early history of the beginning of various civilizations. So, Norse mythology contains two main groups of deities or gods: the Aesir of the Old Norse pantheons, and then the Vanir, later pantheon, who warred with the Aesir before in the pantheon merged into one.
So since we are done with our topic with the Norse mythology, please study. We will have our exam on the next meeting.